All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Late Show. This is your host, Young Brando from Los Angeles. We are live and we are going to talk watches. I'm going to start with a new release that's very aesthetically pleasing to me, even if it does have certain drawbacks. Karl F. Bucherer, of course, as you know, they have an entire network of very privileged authorized dealers, starting from Lucerne, Switzerland. They have seemingly conquered the world of luxury watches, but they have been also producing timepieces under their own name with their own brand for 135 years. So they saw it fit to commemorate that occasion, commemorate those 135 years with a heritage piece, a chronometer at that, and a limited edition. Here is the whole crew. They have made the pieces in stainless steel and in gold. And there's a silvered dial, silvered sunburst for both stainless steel and the gold. The black dial is exclusive to the stainless steel version, and that gradient brown dial, which has a serious vintage vibe, is exclusive to the gold. They all have this very old school Milanese or mesh style bracelets, and it just seems the right time with the whole upsurge of interest in vintage dress watches that have this kind of conservative um, and classical proportions and sort of an integrated bracelet look, which this chronometer by Karl F. Bucherer um, very, very resourcefully and capably provides. But more than that, it of course gives into that picture or injects into that picture some modernity, not only in terms of the build, but also in terms of the dimensions of the case. Make no mistake, this is still a very conservative affair. The pieces are very compact, 39 millimeters in diameter and right under 8.5 millimeters in thickness. So beautiful dress watches that have a vintage vibe. And if you think, for whatever reason, that those vintage pieces by Patek, Vacheron, and others are not necessarily for you, maybe the bracelets are too short for you, maybe the watches are too small for you, you'll get a lot of the same joy and a lot of the same kind of effect from these watches. They really have a beautiful look. This is the gold with the silver dial, a time and date piece with gilt dial fixtures, including the hands. The center sweep seconds hand has an arrow tip in red, and there's a date window at 3 o'clock, which does not actually abbreviate the index there. These pieces have solid case backs, and the bracelets are actually removable. So even though they are nicely integrated and sit rather flush at the case, these are still pieces that you can wear on a variety of other bands, including nice leather straps. The case back has the family crest of the Bukhara, and also, of course, the number of that particular piece in the limited edition. 88 examples in gold and 188 in steel. These are your dial options in gold. Silver for an absolute classic look, and this gradient brown, which seemingly would make it the perfect lounge lizard watch for your local cigar joint. The stainless steel piece has the black dial option, which remains exclusive to it, and a nice line of writing in red, which, at least in my Rolex captivated mind, is almost an instant sign of a vintage charm, even though the watch has been just released. The stainless steel, as I mentioned, is made in 188 examples, 1888 being the year of their foundation. And these pieces are, of course, true to their dress watch form, practically only splash proof, 30 millimeters of water resistance, 3 atmos of depth rating. And for the stainless steel version, they actually come at a relatively reasonable 5,900 price point. The gold version climbs up rather significantly and would put you 19,900 US dollars short. Now, there is a significant drawback, if you ask me. I appreciate the fact that these are regulated to a standard of chronometric precision, that they are cost certified. However, at the end of the day, they are equipped with Bukhara's version of the Selita 300, which is a workhorse self-winding movement. So the caliber CFB 1965 is basically a tricked out and chronometer regulated version of the standard Selita SW 300, which beats at 4 hertz, 28,800, and has a 42-hour power reserve. That is kind of disappointing because at the end of the day, that is a very standard movement, which you can find in all sorts of watches. It also happens to be a clone of ETA 2892-A2, which, again, if you want to see the silver lining, you have a watch with a universal movement that is serviceable by any watchmaker worth their salt. Um, Almost universally, everyone would know how to take care of time only or time and dates ETA or Celita movements as they would an ETA Valjoux 7750 chronograph movement. So that's the positive side. The negative side is that at the end of the day, you end up paying a rather hefty premium for the brand name, the chronometer standard, as well as the styling. The price point, again, it's for the stainless steel is actually not prohibitive, so I don't necessarily think it is all that uncomfortable. But to pay almost $6,000 for a watch that essentially has an ETA movement, which you can very often find in watches at 1.5K price point, that might actually be somewhat disappointing. I think this one is the best looking of the bunch, perhaps also because it is kind of the cleanest, the purest expression. A very handsome watch indeed. Hi, John D. How are you doing, man? Nice to see you. Speaking of crests, there's a nice crest with John D's avatar. Again, if you actually like this styling and you do have a budget right around this price point, 5 to 7.5, there are actually very interesting deals on the vintage market for watches that's similar to this genre. Let's see what I have in my notepad already. I should be able to pull up some examples. If I don't, you should be on the lookout for a video, especially if you are a member on YouTube, cover vintage styles like this watch quite often. Let me see. I think I had one saved not too long ago. You know, these pieces, of course, sell quite quickly once they have the young Brando touch. So they also happen to disappear from my notepad. If you give me 1 second, I should be able to find one. In the meantime, how are you doing? How's the approaching weekend looking for you? It feels in Los Angeles that people have left for July 4 and not come back. I guess especially with all the problems they have experienced with flights. And just the fact that July 4th fell on a Tuesday, I think a lot of people decided to take the entire week off, and a bad time. actually to do that. I already have a couple of things lined up for you. Just give me one more second. Yes. All right. So I have Vacheron and Patek, actually three pieces that are similar to this. The first one is Vacheron Patrimony from the 70s. As you can see, a beautiful silver dial, which has certainly seen better days. A nice round case with a relatively substantive polished bezel that has a slight contour, which gives the dial a larger than life look, and what looks like a bracelet that is detailed by hand. White gold case and bracelets, two-hander. As you can see, the brick style bracelets, seemingly hand hammered for detail. I'm not a jeweler by trade, so sometimes it is hard for me to recognize that kind of thing just from a photograph. But that's what it looks like to me. And an ultra thin case, as you can see, with a hand wound movement that bears the Geneva hallmark. A full set, a kind of a time capsule. And this Vacheron Constantin Patrimony reference 6532 is priced right around 8,595 in US dollars, listed by a professional dealer at Chrono 24. As I mentioned, the dimensions make these pieces quite diminutive by modern standards. So you're looking at a watch that is 32.5 by diameter, but truly ultra thin because it is only 4.9 millimeters in height. So that's the Vacheron Constantin. And then you have a Patek that integrates one of the finishes that we came to associate with the brand increasingly, Clou de Paris, or an hobnail bezel on the round case. And once again, an integrated bracelet, two-hander with a silver dial that, comparatively speaking, is much better preserved. The piece comes with an archival extract and a travel case by Patek Philippe. Very beautiful watch. Minimally, you see where they are coming from, where Karl F. Bucherer cribbed in terms of the design. White gold with the matching white gold mesh style bracelet. This is the reference 3520. Once again, you're looking at something with a 32 millimeter case diameter and a hand wound movement. Beautiful hobnail bezel combined with this bracelet, which itself seems very well articulated and supple, and an absolutely clean silver dial. This is again a 70s piece by Patek Philippe. a white gold Calatrava on an integrated bracelet, a nice jewelry piece, time only, and it is put up there on Chrono 24 for about $10,000, and that is a fixed price. And then for something different and maybe even more impressive in a certain sense, rectangular and something that carries the same sort of jewelry work to the dial as well, achieving a kind of integrated look that plays wonderfully with the texture on the bracelet. Once again, a white gold piece. Patek 3491, rectangular with these contoured flanks and a stunning blued gold dial. Roman numerals at the quarters, with the Roman numeral 10 taking the shape of an hourglass, which is a beautiful touch, and classic pencil styled hands for this two-hander. Again, dial decoration that has an impressive interplay with the decoration of the bracelet. Honestly, very hip piece and rather unisex. The dimensions are even more minuscule here. Roughly, I think 26 by 32 with the extensions of the flanks. This is the Patek Philippe 3491 white gold case and bracelets, rectangular piece with a stunning hand finished blue dial. And it's at the fixed price, offered at the fixed price of $9,000 by a professional dealer out of the United States. So I think this one has to be my favorite, owing to its condition largely, but also to that hobnail bezel. But the Vacheron that we were looking at here is no slouch either. And at least you can see that sort of heritage inspiration that the designers at Bukhara had in mind when they were celebrating, when they were commemorating the 135th anniversary of their tradition, of their heritage, which they used to release these limited edition pieces, 188 pieces in stainless steel with either a silver dial and the exclusive option of the black dial, and 88 pieces in gold with the same silver dial, but this time gilt fixtures on it rather than rhodium plated, which is the case with the stainless steel, and this gradient brown sunburst dial, which is exclusive to the gold version and gives off serious lounge lizard vibes. This is the new release of the day. There is actually one more, speaking of which, but before I leave again, before I move on to that, 5,900 for the stainless steel versions and 19,900 for the gold versions, which I believe is yellow gold, but I do want to double check. No, it's actually pink gold for the brown dial. Let's see if that's the same with all right. Nice. So it is actually pink gold for both the silver and brown dial versions of the gold limited edition. Hey Basil, how are you doing, man? I have a small problem again with the internet connection, so hopefully it won't impede us much. If someone jumps on the panel soon, that will give me a chance to restart perhaps and see if I can actually get rid of that problem. For now, it seems to be working okay. Well, as always, I had a hard time finding the new releases for Seiko on their own website, so I will refer you to Tony Traina's presentation in Hodinki. Seiko has made some new additions to its Seiko 5 lineup that once again have a very strong vintage vibe, very strong heritage component, especially in this particular model. So let's check it out. That barrel shaped case is really killer. Here's a good look at the new SRPK 17, which pays homage to the original Seiko 5 from 1968. Even with the recreation of the original logo. Seiko 5, of course, refers to the 5 principles that Seiko holds dear when creating an entry-level timepiece. Waterproofness, the crown at 4 o'clock, quality and durability in terms of the construction of the case and bracelets, the day-date function, and affordability. This particular piece has a depth rating of 10 bars, which amounts to 100 meters. So it sticks to that Seiko 5 category without reaching necessarily the parameters of a modern dive watch. A nice two-tone dial, even kind of a tuxedo style, with the minutes, seconds track in a silvery tone of gray and the center of the dial in black. The sports script is in a soft powder blue, and the center sweep seconds hand is in red. The day date function and a fully graduated 60-minute bezel for timing. The case is 39 millimeters in thickness, 39 millimeters in diameter, 43 lug to lug measurement, and it is 12.5 millimeters high. The bracelet, for my liking, has perhaps a little bit too much of that retro vibe, but it seems to flow nicely with this particular case design, especially with its integration right where the case lugs seem to be scalloped. There are three more pieces, which, from the perspective of the specifications, I don't think differ that much, but they have a more standard case design. Still, of course, the shape, the styling of a Seiko diver watch. .45 millimeters in diameter, which amounts to 47 lug to lug, and a little bit thicker at 13.4. These are the SRPK 09, which has the silver dial, SRPK 11, which has one of the Seiko signatures, orange dial, and SRPK 13, which has a black dial. These, once again, all take inspiration from those early Seiko 5 collections. In this case, a selection from 1969. The silver dial has a sunburst finish with the sweep center seconds hand in orange. And this kind of alternating striped black and silver 5-minute sections on the timing bezel. Which makes it look a lot more fun than it could have been otherwise. The automatic text is in a shade of blue, so which serves as a nice accent. And it is quite monochromatic without being monotonous, without being boring for that. It does have the modern Seiko 5 logo. The orange version has quite a muted bezel in all black. On the chapter ring, it has alternating blocks of black and orange, which serves as a convenient way of breaking up the timing. very bright, summer ready, beach ready, and even ready for Halloween, which by all accounts is already around the corner. Time flies fast. The case and bracelet construction remains quite uniform along all the Seiko 5 references, same as it has been reintroduced in 2019. With their standard 3-link bracelet. You might call it oyster style if you would like. And the SRP K13 is incidentally the most colorful of the bunch, even though it happens to have a black dial. It does have a kind of regatta look for that reason. Has both an inner and outer bezel, the inner being purely aesthetic and not functional. But it does have, in fact, a blue block for the first 4 segments, for the first 4 sectors, and green for the rest of the 12th. 8. Once again, the automatic script is rendered in a powder blue, and the center sweep seconds hand is orange. The modern Seiko 5 logo. You also have a fully graduated 60 minutes timing bezel, of which the first 20 are marked in red, in contrast from the silver of the remaining 40 minutes. These are extremely reasonably priced, great for a fun entry-level watch, whether you want to get it as a gift for someone else or for yourself. The MSRP is $350 for the 3 pieces we were just looking at that are in the standard Seiko 5 case. The first piece, which is the real throwback SRPK 17, is actually a limited edition. Not all that limited, but it does come with a slight premium since it lists for 415 US dollars, and it will be 15,555 pieces. If you forgot, it's 5 for Seiko 5, and it is going to be available later this month or perhaps in August. Again, SRPK 17 is a limited edition, even though it's not that limited, and it's priced at 415 US dollars. And the remaining trio, which also feature throwback designs but are installed in the modern Seiko 5 case are available at 350 US dollars. Please hit the like button. I'll be right back after a refreshing break. All right, we're back. Thank you for your patience. We're looking at the new Seiko 5 releases, which includes this heritage inspired trio and the SRPK 17, which is the real throwback that goes all the way back to the 1968 introduction of the series. Without further ado, let's go back to Sotheby's Hong Kong, to the ongoing fine watches auction. I'm gonna put the link in the chat as well. So if you would like me to pull up any of the watches, highlight them for you, inject some historical and horological detail into the mix, feel free to send in the lot number to the super chat. We have gone through quite a bit of them. Some interesting Patek Philippe pieces, limited Lange pieces, limited edition Omega Speedmasters, a very special annual calendar by Laurent Ferrier, a Tortue perpetual calendar, an open-worked Santos 100, among many other interesting watches. Some earlier pieces by Chrono Tokyo, which have become quite desirable in their own way, perhaps mostly to their limited nature, due to their limited nature. We're looking at lots 823, which is H. Moza piece from 2010 with a tobacco brown sunburst dial, the Mayu Marrone for the chestnut shade of the dial, with a single Arabic numeral at 12 o'clock, stick markers, leaf style hands, and small seconds at 6 o'clock. This is a piece that is styled more along the lines of their pre Milan family ownership days. Mayu is not even a line that exists anymore, but is largely preserved in the styling of the Endeavor, which is not exactly the same. It's a very nice, classically styled white gold dress watch with something more up its sleeve, 39.8 in diameter, and with a hand wound caliber, of which the bridge plates are decorated with Moza's distinct double stripe finish, beveled on the edges, of course, and there is also a power reserve indicator on the back. Very interesting and visually appealing piece, front and back. And from the profile as well. This is lot 823, H. Moza and Company, Mayu Marrone, white gold with a sunburst tobacco brown dial, and it is currently being bid at 6,131 in US dollars. The bidding will close on July 13th. As a reminder, this is an online auction, even though it is curated by Sotheby's Hong Kong. So if you have your eye set on any one of these pieces, you should note the particular time of closing, because they are separated by 1 minute intervals, if I'm not mistaken, from one lot to another. So it is something that you should be mindful of. Here's an interesting Patek Philippe pocket watch from early 20th century. Hey, Bruce G, nice to see you. Hey, John, how are you doing, man? These are famous chronometro gondolo pieces, a very popular genre of pocket watch from early 20th century. Gondolo and Laborio was probably Patek's premium retailer in South America, based in Rio de Janeiro. It's a keyless, open face piece. Keyless meaning that it winds by the crown. Open face meaning that it does not have a closure on the face of the watch, on the dial side. Beautifully slender Roman numerals on the dial, which is white enamel. The piece is in 18 karat pink gold and has a substantive 55.5 millimeter diameter. The piece also comes with an archival extract from Patek Philippe, which confirms its production in year 1908 and its sale on July 21, 1908 of the same year as well. Chronometro Gondolo pocket watch by Patek Philippe from 1908, lot number 836. The piece has not yet attracted any bids, but the starting bid would be right under 9,000 in US dollars, 8,942. Another interesting pocket watch, which is a collaboration by Cartier and our friends at European Watch Co., which is another name for Jaeger LeCoultre at that point in time. This is a platinum piece, so once again, brings to the table the kind of substance that one expects from a serious pocket watch. The time period is a little closer to our time, 1930. Silver dial with beautiful Roman numerals for the hour markers and a railroad track for minutes and apple-shaped hands in heat-blued stainless steel that we now recognize by the name of that one house and one house only, namely Breguet. Once again, the piece is keyless, so it is wound by the crown. And as you can see from the profile, it is actually a relatively thin piece that is set with brilliant diamonds on the entire case band, which makes it even more stunning. It is a beautiful execution of pure sex appeal. Lot 842, platinum Cartier pocket watch, 45 millimeters in diameter, with an European Watchco movement, JLC by another name. The piece has not yet attracted any bids, but there's about 6 days to go. The starting bid would be 7,664 in US dollars. Hey, JB, how are you doing, man? Not yet. Not yet. I don't own a pocket watch yet, but I would really love to, and I would love it to be something like this. Um, there is just something very profound about a nice pocket watch. Um, I feel it is also an interesting way of communicating your passion for mechanical watches to other people, especially to people who don't quite understand or want to understand the appeal of wristwatches. And, you know, it's not unreasonable, right? There are a lot of other wrist worn devices that people use almost universally at this point. Fitness devices, health monitors, of course, smartwatches, they're all worn on the wrist. But the pocket watch is um, a true throwback object. It is absolutely and incontestably obsolete, yet it is also something that is very material, very easy to pass around, and especially in larger diameter, especially in larger diameter and precious metal, these things have a certain heft and substance to them that um, can hardly be matched by your average wristwatch. I'm not talking about, a prestige platinum piece on a platinum bracelet, right? You can get a lot of heft out of that. That is a weighty piece, but there is something quite charming about um, a pocket watch. It's like, it's like having a nice painting, right? That would be a wristwatch that is very easy to interpret, like something like a beautiful landscape, perhaps, and compared that to a kind of sculpture, whether it's abstract or in human form, that brings into the space where it's exhibited, into the space where it's situated, simply a different kind of atmosphere when you encounter it. A pocket watch is like that. It is, I think, especially in our time, um, almost purely an aesthetic object. Again, that doesn't mean they can't be used as timekeepers, of course, but I think there is something quite special about them, and I would love to add a piece like one of these, like the Chronometro Gondolo or this Cartier. I think I'm due for a restart, actually. Let me just do that. I was hoping someone would jump on the panel. If you can be patient for a few minutes, hopefully I'll be able to reward that patience with some more stories, watch related or otherwise. I'll be right back. Please hit the like button and enjoy your stay. Hey guys, um, I'm not sure if it's any better, but at least I'm back. We're talking about the ongoing Sotheby's Fine Watches auction, online only, but curated by Sotheby's Hong Kong. Before I get to the double red Sea Dweller that is actually in the thumbnail of tonight's live stream, I want to share with you this stunning piece that I came across in Jose Perez's website. As you know, I had him as a guest a couple of times on this channel already, but more immediately to discuss his brilliant article on the origins of the modern dive watch, which he locates actually at um, at the heights in the Mount Everest expedition. Here's a look at our conversation. I will share the link in the chat. But as part of his interlude in that article, which you can find on periscope.com, he had this stunning picture of the ever so elusive single red Sea Dweller, one of those early examples, which actually belonged originally to Canadian deep sea explorer and physician Dr. Joe McInnes, who wore it pretty extensively for his underwater exploits. but he was actually also good friends with the Canadian astronaut Dr. Dave Williams, who took the watch with him for his mission at the International Space Station in 2007. And I believe that happens to be his second trip to the International Space Station. So, a very interesting story there. If I'm not mistaken, Dave Williams was previously a guest to Hodinki's Talking Watches as well. So, if you can dig up that episode, that should be a nice watch, even though I have the faintest memory of it. But this is a sea dweller, and a pretty rare one at that, floating in the International Space Station. And it was these examples that the 50th anniversary edition that came out in 2017 harkened back to. That's why the 50th anniversary Sea Dweller, SD43, that we call by its shorthand, that's why they have a single line of red, unlike the more familiar reference 1665s, which are called double red because they have two lines of red writing. Let me see, where do I have this? There we go. Once again, here's the link to the Sotheby's auction. I have no clue what's going on with my internet connection, so my apologies in advance. If we run into any future glitches, or if it seems to be lagging, the fault is mine. It is lagging on my end. We're looking at lot 847, a double red Sea Dweller from mid-70s. As you can see, the iconic collectible and very desirable Rolex Sea Dweller, which is the watch Rolex produced in a purpose-driven mission to attend to the needs of saturation divers. For example, those COMEX divers whom Rolex pretty faithfully supplied through the decades. In the double red, you have both the Sea Dweller script and the Submariner 2000 script in red. 2000, of course, stands for 2000 feet, which equals 600 plus meters. Characteristically, the domed acrylic crystal of these sea dwellers does not have a cyclops, which has become quite an inspirational look for, for vintage Rolex watches in their own right. As you can see, that's a pretty serious dome that, in fact, gives you nothing but warm fuzz from this angle. from the profile. There you can see the gas escape valve or the helium escape valve, which Rolex supplied as a technology, as an upgrade, so to speak, from the Submariner to the Sea Dweller. This particular piece is fitted with a more modern oyster bracelet. The case is in decent shape, if not necessarily an enviable shape. And the bezel insert 2 seems like a replacement, but the black dial has a very warm and pleasing patina with relatively even luminous material. A charming example at lots 847 for Rolex Double Red Sea Dweller, reference 1665, roughly from around mid-70s. This piece still doesn't have any bids, but the starting bid would be right around 30,657 in US dollars. Nice. Thank you, John D. I look forward to it too. He's currently writing a piece, and all Jose cares, all Periscope cares about is truth. So until he gets down to it, until he makes sure that the information he's sharing is absolutely true, he is not going to present it, but it should be soon. Once he publishes that piece about what really was on Tenzin Norgay's wrist when he scaled the highest pinnacle of the world, he will publish his article, and he will also be a guest here. In the lot before, you have the classic Steve McQueen, a watch that is known by the proper name of King of Cool, but a watch that has actually never been worn by him. Nevertheless, since the 70s were more or less McQueen's era, this cool watch came to be associated with him. You can blame the Italian collectors for that, but they have also given this watch the nickname Freccione because of its arrow-tipped 24-hour hand. This is kind of the connoisseur's choice when it comes to vintage Rolex watches. I think I shared with you before that this is actually a new addition to this particular model. This particular reference number actually happens to be a new addition to Eric Wynn's own collection, as you can see right here. He has an absolutely stunning example himself. With a fixed 24-hour bezel and a characteristic orange hand, which, as much as one can discern from contemporary catalogs, actually left the factory in a sort of fire red, but because of a certain defect in the lacquer paint that was used for the hands, it faded pretty quickly, or rather, it changed pretty quickly, usually to this recognizable shade of orange, which has been carried over to recent recreations of Rolex Explorer 2. At times, also yellow, which you can see in Tudor's relatively new GMT watch Black Bay Pro uh, on the 24-hour hand. And there are also examples that have completely faded off to a white that matches the colors of the rest of the handsets. And some collectors came to call those particular examples with an all white handset as the albino. This particular piece seems to have a very healthy case. Um, but for better or worse, the loom seems to have chipped off rather significantly in certain places, especially at 6 o'clock and also at the tip of that big triangle at 12. This piece comes with its original warranty papers and presentation box. At lots 842, Rolex Explorer 2, reference 1655. The starting bid for this piece would be right around 23,000 in US dollars. Lot 850 is a day date, an absolute classic, 18038, so the single quick sets, which means that you can quickly cycle through the date with the help of the crown, but not the day. 18233 was the first reference for the double quick sets, which helps you correct both the day and the date with the help of the crown. So for that reason, I find it to be a very nice compromise between vintage and modern when it comes to the Rolex day dates. But of course, there's a lot of value in 4 digits, 1803, and of course in 18038, which is the 5 digit, which with the single quick sets. Here you have stick markers and a black dial, which actually flows quite nicely with the gilt accents, and of course the yellow gold case and the presidential bracelet. Fluted bezel, of course, for this yellow gold day dates. This is a naked watch, so to speak, watch only, no box or papers or any other collaterals. Lot 850, which is a Rolex day date on its presidential bracelet, reference 8038 in yellow gold in its traditional proportions, 36 millimeters in diameter, and with a stunning black dial that goes really well with the gold. The starting bid for this piece would be 19,161 in US dollars. There are a number of Jarajanta pieces. One that is a carbon copy of mine on the rubber band. We are going to come to that. But let's start with the Disney licensed examples of the jump hour with retrograde minutes. At 8:55, we have the Retro Fantasy, Scrooge McDuck. Scrooge McDuck has a beautiful mother of pearl dial with the depiction of the cartoon character, Disney licensed. The case is right under 36 millimeters in diameter, comes on an unsigned red alligator strap, which matches the hunting pink jacket of the cartoon character. The piece has a substantive domed and polished bezel, coin edging on the case band, a beaded crown, and slightly downturned lugs. In stainless steel, kind of soft trapezoid opening at the traditional 6 o'clock for the jumping hours, framed, and a scale for the minutes, which is in the shape of a downward facing crescent in the upper half of the dial, on which the cartoon character shows the minutes in retrograde fashion, which means that at the top of the hour, in synchronized fashion, the hour jumps forward and Scrooge McDuck's hand snaps right back to 0. This is lot 855, Jarajanta Retro Fantasy Scrooge McDuck in stainless steel, mother of pearl dial, 35.5 millimeters in diameter. The piece is currently being bid at for 6,387 US dollars. The next piece, I believe, is even more delicate. This is a retro fantasy Mickey Mouse, once again in stainless steel. But 27.5 millimeters in diameter, so much more feminine proportion. Mother of pearl, green tinted, with a depiction of Mickey Mouse perfecting his golf swing. Quartz movements accommodating the smaller dimensions of the case. A porthole-like opening for the jumping hour indication at around 4 o'clock, and a retrograde scale for the minutes, which are shown with Mickey's golf club. The green is matched with the green alligator strap, which is branded Gérald Janta, as you can see. And you can see that this is a quartz movement on the case back, Disney licensed product. This is lot 856, the Mickey Mouse Retro Fantasy in a substantively reduced case size of 27 millimeters, 27 and a half, in stainless steel with a quartz movement. The current highest bid is $6,387 in US dollars. At 859, you're looking at the Retro Sport, the sporty version of your Janta Jump Hour with retrograde minutes watch. This one has a two-tone white dial with a kind of ivory color. For the minute track, the radial branding that makes ingenious use of the negative space between the minute scale and the aperture for the jumping hour, which is at the traditional 12 o'clock. In this one, there's actually a seconds hand, which is heat blued and tipped in red, and a broadsword minute hand, which is also heat blued and generously loomed. All these double-digit numbers in that off-white color are actually loomed as well, and so is the jump hour. The case is substantively larger, 38 millimeters in diameter, almost 41 millimeters if you count the crown, which again is more noticeably domed, but still beaded. There are also crown guards present. The center dial actually has a mother of pearl detail. And for this particular example, there's actually a rubber bezel, which matches the rubber band of the watch. The rubber band is very distinctively signed with the maestro's full name. And you can see that this is a later example of the sport model post 2000 after the Bulgari acquisition from the changed reference number as well. But it's quite similar to the watch that I'm wearing now otherwise. So I want to share it with you. Oh, thank you, JB. Thank you. I will get to this right away. So here we go. This is my Janta jump hour piece with retrograde minutes. It is actually on the matching stainless steel bracelet in my case. A beautiful case. And even though the sapphire reflects a little too much, You can perhaps notice that mother of pearl detail from certain angles, and the heat blued hands are a true delight. A very cool watch. I think at the affordable level, before you get to all these impressive chiming pieces, the grand sonneries and complicated pieces, it's a very interesting way of getting into the Jarajanta brand. And on the secondary market, there are a lot of interesting deals for them. This particular example, post 2000, post Bulgari acquisition, at lot number 859, started the auction with no reserve, but with about 6 days to go, the bid currently stands at 894 in US dollars. This piece, again, is naked, so it is watch only. And there's a little bit of gunk on the rubber bezel and the rubber band. So that might be a slight problem. But for me, that would have been a great excuse to just take off the rubber band and put it on an ADO strap. I want to do it with this particular piece, so stay tuned. But I do want to get some more shots of it before I do that. Thank you, Truth Over Facts. I love, once again, I have to say, every time I see this handle, this nickname, I love it. I get a buzz from it. Truth Over Facts. It's beautiful. Jake Brooks. I mean, it's it's so much more meaningful than facts over feelings, and you will know. If you know, you will know what that means if you feel the same way. Truth over facts. Beautiful. JB asks me to bring up 745. As Kanye says, everything I'm not makes me everything I am. Let's take a look at 745. Page 2. No, actually, it's first page. Man, sorry about that. It's been a little bit of a ride. Ah, yes. I was quickly talking about this. This is a limited edition Bulgari Octo Finissimo that I love as an idea, but not so much in its execution. It is the stainless steel version and a kind of invisible dial design, which is a collaboration with the famous Japanese architect Kazuyo Sejima. A limited run of 360 pieces. It retailed for around $14,000, if I'm not mistaken, and has this kind of invisible look on the dial side. Kind of looks like also that you are kind of peeking into an old school speaker in a way, if you know what I mean. As much as I'm enchanted by the incredibly thin and unbearably light aesthetics of the titanium version, I think I am much more inclined to pick up one of these in stainless steel, and the improved waterproofness is certainly a strong argument in favor of the stainless steel. which, uh, by the way, is still quite thin. Um, Compared to the 515 millimeter height of the titanium original, the stainless steel version of the Bulgari Octofinissimo is only 6.4 millimeters thick. So that's significantly thinner than most watches in this category, significantly thinner than 90% of the wristwatches you will find on the market today. I can put it that way, certainly. I have to say, I appreciate the fact that Bulgari does very aesthetically pleasing and exciting limited editions of the Octofinissimo. They are swimming against the current, they are going against the grain. It is an overpopulated segment. It is also um, a very architectural and unique design, even though it takes its codes from an original creation by Jara Janta. It's still the oddball when you examine the pieces in this integrated bracelets sports chic watch category. So I admire the way they are trying to push the envelope. This particular piece, to me, fails kind of that practical aspect. I feel like I would have a hard time telling time uh, on this watch, but that shouldn't be a problem because I think the Sejima, especially, but a lot of the limited edition Japanese um, market pieces for the Bulgari Octofinissimo, I think these were made for very niche collectors, anyways. I don't think this is the kind of piece that you would necessarily make your first or only Bulgari Octofinissimo. So that's all I would say. If I would go for one of these pieces, I would probably either go with the rather monochromatic titanium version, similar to monochromatic stainless steel. The blue dial is not too shabby either for the stainless steel. And the new Florentine inspired kind of salmon nude dial that is a North American limited edition, which I think they were having problems moving most recently. That could be, I think, a brilliant first Octofinissimo, and that one is in stainless steel as well. Let me see if it is on the website at all. But I mean, why bother with the website? I'm just going to pull it up from my own Instagram. Because I had a decent write up for that. Let me pull it up from here. Hmm. Okay, yeah, my connection is certainly crap today, but we are managing. And thank you for obliging me. Thank you for your understanding. Here is the Tuscan copper dial, quite the chameleon, very much in tune with the contrasting finishes of the stainless steel version. The titanium one is sandblasted and quite muted, whereas the stainless steel Octofinissimo is more closely aligned with the larger aesthetic codes of the integrated bracelet sporty watch. I like it, honestly. I think I was more smitten with the Pisa um, limited edition, which had a grain brushed dial and lacked even the branding, you know, such a pure, beautiful design that fit the titanium execution. In that case, this I think goes well with the stainless steel. I like it quite a bit. Nevertheless, um, I think any stainless steel version would do quite nicely. Yeah, there's a Sejima signature on the back, um, which is a very unique handwriting, to be honest. And that piece has not been bid on yet, but the starting bid would be 12,774 US dollars. I think with the premium, even that could be a decent deal if you're really burning to get this particular edition. Um, Again, one of only 360 pieces. Once again, if you would like to highlight one of these pieces, as JB just did, and hear my extended take, please feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I will attend to it right away. Here's a piece that I really like. I even prefer it a little better when it's not diamond set on the bezel, but this should do. Um, this is a throwback piece, a very unique design from Vacheron Constantin's back catalog, and a design that is uniquely Vacheron Constantin. This is a piece that they came up with to celebrate the award of Prestige de France to the manufacturer. I've not been, I've looked into this, I've seen a lot of these watches, but I've never been quite able to find what kind of award Prestige de France is. Vacheron is justifiably proud that they are the only watch manufacturer to be endowed with this award, but I don't really know its meaning. Um, of course, I know it is awarded in France, um, but nothing beyond that. At any rate, the 1972 is a kind of trapezoid, an asymmetric design that actually has the proportions of the golden ratio, 1 by 1.6, roughly speaking. This is the reference 25520. So it is actually a version of the watch that is quartz powered. There are so many to me, more attractive versions of the watch, of the prestige, so to speak, that are, of course, powered by a hand wound movement. That would be reference 37010. This is a smaller size, quartz powered, and clearly intended for a more feminine audience. Stylized Roman numerals at the quarters, and sword styled hands, a diamond set bezel with a lavender blue leather strap. The case is engraved on the back in Roman numerals to mark that year of the award, 1972. Original Vachon Constantin stamped leather band and their proprietary white gold buckle as well. 32.5 by 23.5. So this is the reduced size with the quartz movements and a diamond set bezel. Reference 25520 of the Vachon Constantin 1972 asymétrique at lot 865. The piece has not yet attracted any offers, but the starting bid would be 5,110 in US dollars. We're looking at the Sotheby's Hong Kong Fine Watches auction, an online auction that has already started, but the bidding will close in about 6 days. I'm skipping over some of these watches, but if you want me to go back, please feel free to alert me. Please feel free to send in the lot number. I would happily oblige. A lot of interesting Frank Muller and Roger Dubuis pieces back to back. Lot number 905 is a cushion-shaped case chronograph by Roger Dubuis. This is a piece that they call La Monégasque. I really like the dial design, which has that sort of Art Deco inspiration and a kind of three-tone layout with different shades of gray and a black chapter ring for the tachometer, which is inscribed in red. Beautifully balanced bicompacts. US dollars. Once again, my mic was disconnected. I don't know when. Um, Sorry about that. I was talking about La Monégasque by Roger Dubuis, which is a modern cushion-cased stainless steel self-winding chronograph with a micro-rotor movement that carries the hallmark of Geneva. The watch is water resistant up to 5 bars, 50 meters. Beautifully finished and chronometer certified. And an interesting 3-tone dial, traditional bicompax layout for the chronograph, 2 registers, 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock, continuous running seconds at 9, and with the tachymeter inscribed in red on the black chapter ring. The piece is currently being bid at $6,387 in US dollars. That was lot 905. At lots 906, we have an interesting AP perpetual calendar. You're looking at the Jules Audemars Metropolis, reference 25919, a perpetual calendar world time wristwatch in the case shape, in the traditional case shape that is named after one of the founders of the brand, namely Jules Audemars, 38.5 millimeters in diameter. The case has a very traditional design with a round shape, elongated and downturned lugs. Contrasting finishes in close proximity with polished bezel and grain brush on the rounded sides of the case. The dial has a globescape pattern. And in addition to the 3 subdials that serve the calendrical functions, pointer date at 3 o'clock, day of the week at 9 o'clock, month at 12 o'clock in a larger subsidiary dial, which contains the indicator for the leap year, which is nicely counterbalanced at 6, with a subsidiary dial that takes over the world time functions, a 24-hour ring on the inside and a cities ring on the outside, with an additional pusher at 4 o'clock, which helps you cycle through those time zones. It's a very interesting and unique piece by Audemars Piguet. Very elegant and conservatively designed in terms of the case architecture, but quite, I would say, daringly modern in terms of the dial layout and aesthetic. And the piece also has a beautiful movement that builds on the same architecture that powered the Royal Oak for the first 49 years of its existence, the Royal Oak Jumbo for the first 49 years of its existence, namely the JLC 920. Beautifully finished, topped off with a skeletonized rotor that brings the initials of the two founding families in Gothic font into sharp relief, a P, and that rotor is supplemented by a full 21 carats additional gold weight as well. This is the Jules Audemars Metropolis by AP, a perpetual calendar world time wristwatch with a leap year indication, very unique, quite beautiful, and supremely wearable at 38.5 millimeters. This piece has not yet attracted any bids, but the starting bid would be $25,548 in US dollars. At lot 907, you're looking at a white gold classic chronograph by Girard-Perregaux, again, one of the legacy manufacturers whose name is slightly tarnished at this moment, but is being quickly recovered by the executives who took the company over from Kering and seemingly are carrying it to profitability again. This is again a very classic case design at 40 millimeters and in 18 karat white gold, presented on a brown Girard-Perregaux alligator strap with medium scales. And the piece also has a matching déployant clasp in 18 karat white gold. It comes with the original warranty papers, the product literature, and the presentation box. A nice blue dial, which goes really well with white metal case. Classic 2-register chronograph design with the tachymeter printed on the periphery of the dial. Stick markers with oversized Arabic numerals at 12 and 6 and leaf-styled hands. It looks quite nice from profile, as you can see. And the piece also has a self-winding caliber with an 18 carats full gold weight, which is finished by Côte de Genève circular Geneva wave decoration. Reference 49539. This is lot 907, the Girard-Perregaux 1966, 18 karat white gold chronograph in 40 millimeters with a blue dial, self-winding And the starting bid for this piece is 10,219 in US dollars. No news, JB, from your little outing today, from your trip? No, nothing to report. Here is a Tudor Black Bay reference 79 to 20 with the burgundy bezel, kind of the smiling dial as well. This is the so-called heritage size now in 41 millimeters. It has perhaps been superseded in popularity by the Black Bay 58, but it has also made a comeback this year. I mean the burgundy bezel. This is the example from 2012, from a little more than a decade ago, with the Tudor rose on the crown and on the dial, the smiley face at 6 o'clock, the Tudor Black Bay reference 79 to 20 at lot 908. It started without reserve and it's currently being bid at 1,788 in US dollars. Okay. Okay, so no news, then nothing to report on yet. That's okay. That's okay. It will come. It will come. I'm sure it is near. We'll talk more later. Or whenever you would like to. Whenever you would like to jump on, or whenever you like to call. We're looking at one of those famed Hoya reissues. This is an Altavia from 2017, 42 millimeters in diameter, in stainless steel with its matching 7-row beads of rice bracelets, 3 chronograph registers with a date window within the continuous seconds subdial at 6 o'clock. There's also a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock and a 12-hour counter at 9. A rotatable bezel that is marked for 12 hours. And the lume on the dial is colored to this shade of pumpkin, which enhances the vintage feel. Of course, the caliber that runs this watch is Hoya H02, pardon me, which incidentally is a pretty good modern chronograph movement. It is their flagship in-house chronograph caliber. Column wheel, vertical clutch, and with 75 hours of power reserve. This piece comes with the international warranty papers, as well as the instruction manual and the presentation box. The bidding started at no reserve for lots 909, and the watch is currently being bid at 1,022 in US dollars. If you want me to take a closer look at any of the watches that I skipped, feel free to click the link, browse, and get back to me with the lot numbers with a super chat, and I would be more than willing to dive deep with some significant horological detail. I'll bring up this Ferrari branded Gran Turismo Panerai chronograph. I'll be right back after a short break. Stay tuned. Okay, we are back. I am back. We're talking about the Sotheby's Hong Kong Fine Watches auction, ongoing, online only. We're looking at the Ferrari Gran Turismo, which is a cushion-shaped chronograph made for the brand by Panerai. The reference number, I believe, is FER001 in stainless steel. 44 millimeters in diameter, and it has a matching double folding déployant clasp, butterfly style. The piece is chronometer certified, and this particular example comes with the original warranty papers, chronometer certification, as well as other product literature. The case back is accordingly decorated with the prancing pony, 100 meters water resistant, and has all the earmarks of Panerai design. I don't know, did I keep saying chronograph? We are just looking at time and date watch. My apologies if I did say it, in fact. Of course, the piece has the Ferrari branding with the prancing pony at 12 o'clock, Arabic numerals, porthole style, date window at 3 o'clock, and small seconds at 9 with a red seconds hand and a red accent that pays homage to the brand. Lot 921 started at no reserve and is currently being bid at 1,214 in US dollars. We have a bunch of modern Rolex offerings for the next 5 lots or so after I skip through a few. Here is a perennial favorite at 933. This is the Rolex Sea Dweller Deep Sea with the blue and black gradient dial that is often called the James Cameron. The Deep Sea is, of course, quite a unit on the wrist, 44 millimeters in diameter. It remains still fairly large even after the Sea Dweller itself has been upped to 43 millimeters after 2017. There are a few more distinctive things about the aesthetic of this watch. In addition to the gradient blue dial, the deep sea writing in moss green, and the original gas escape valve script on the chapter ring, or on the rejo rather. This is the Rolex Sea Dweller Deep Sea 126 660, the James Cameron at lots 933. The piece comes with its box and papers, and it has a starting bid of 10,219 in US dollars. At lot 934, we have a classic pre-ceramic Submariner date. Again, one of the perennial favorites. This is the Rolex Submariner reference 16610 from around year 1990. Pretty run-of-the-mill example. Nothing quite exceptional or desirable about it. It should do the job. Not a particularly pleasing patina or price point, especially for a naked watch from around 1990. This is lots 934, for which the starting bid is 8,942 in US dollars. At lot 935, we have a contemporary, more or less, Rolex Explorer 2 with the polar dial. This is, of course, the reference number 216570 in the enlarged 42 millimeter case size. Lot 935, which comes with its box and papers, has started at no reserve and is currently being bid at 6,131 in US dollars. 936 is its close cousin with the black dial, the same Explorer 2 reference 216570. This piece also comes with its papers and product literature. And the starting bid for lots 936 would be 6,387 US dollars. The famous thing, of course, about this particular reference point, or reference number rather, was that it brought back that 24-hour hand with the arrow tip in the orange color, which was clearly nudge nudge, wink wink by Rolex to vintage collectors who have associated that particular combination with the original reference 1655 Explorer 2. In this case, the Explorer 2 writing is matched in orange to that 24-hour hand. This is lot 936 for an Explorer 2 reference 216570 with the black dial, for which the starting bid is 6,387 in US dollars. At 938, you're looking at Jaeger-LeCoultre perpetual calendar with an 8-day power reserve. This is a very beautiful piece with a 4-digit display of the year as well. At 6 o'clock, you have the month, pointer dates at 3 o'clock, day of the week at 9 o'clock, which encircles the moon phase indicator, and flanking the Jaeger-LeCoultre signature at around 12 o'clock, there is a power reserve indicator up to 8 days and a day-night indicator as well. Fine Dauphine hands and applied arrow-shaped, multifaceted indices for the hour markers. This is in stainless steel, and the piece has that basically it has that basis of the famous perpetual calendar module invented by Kurt Klaus, which allows everything to be synchronized with a single pusher for the correction. Of course, in a lot of IWC perpetual calendars, that correction could be handled by the crown. In this case, you just have a single pusher on the left flank of the case. And here is the suggestively decorated caliber 876, hand wound with 8+ days of power reserve at full crank, with a sun ray like stripe decoration which seemingly emanates from the balance wheel. Lots 938, Jaeger-LeCoultre perpetual calendar with an 8-day power reserve, indicators for the moon phase, day and night, power reserve, as well as a 4-digit year. The starting bid for this watch would be $10,219 in US dollars. At 9:39, here is the Polaris date with that smoky moss green dial, which was introduced last year in Watches and Wonders and was, at least for the time being, quite a hit with the brand. In stainless steel, with a 42 millimeter case that actually wears quite well, and a double crown configuration for which one of the crowns is actually reserved to manipulate the inner timing bezel. Enlarged Arabic numerals at the quarters, except for 3, where you have the date window. The piece is generously loomed. A red-tipped sweep center seconds hand that also has a rectangular block of loom on it. And the green dial is matched with a textured green rubber strap, which has a matching stainless steel dépliant buckle, butterfly style, for its closure. Here's a look at the movement. This is the JLC Polaris State in stainless steel and with the moss green dial. At lots 939, the piece is currently being bid at 5,748 in US dollars. Lot 942 is one of my favorite pieces. You guys know that the reverso chronograph came into public consciousness once again with this year's releases at the Watches and Wonders, namely the Tribute chronograph, which comes in a stainless steel and alternatively in a pink gold case with either the slate gray blue dial for the stainless steel or the black dial for the pink gold. I think these are very stunning watches. The case is rather too large for my liking, but perhaps would be better in appealing to the contemporary crowd. It remains to be seen. That model was, of course, in its turn, a reinterpretation of the Reverso Complications limited edition of 500 pieces that was released in 1996 in 18 carats pink gold with a skeletonized chronograph movement on the back that was itself fashioned in terms of its bridge plates and the base plates, in terms of its chronograph bridges and its base plates in 14 carats pink gold. This version that you're looking at, the Grand Sport, which has caliber 859 instead of the 829, the original, has no skeletonization, no open working. Instead of the Grand Taille case in 18 karat pink gold, the Grand Sport retrograde chronograph is actually placed into this barrel-shaped, into this tonneau style version of the Reverso, which was supposed to be the modern contemporary sporty interpretation of the Reverso. It didn't quite stick. But nevertheless, it has its fans. I am a fan when it comes to this particular watch. The opaline white dial, which has uniquely a waffle-like pattern at the center. And it is also pretty unique among hand-wound reversos in having sweep center seconds, a beautifully loomed dial, lozenge-shaped hands, which are also loomed, Arabic numerals at 3 and 9, a date window at 6, and an applied JL logo at 12. Striking arrow-shaped indices for the rest of the hour markers, and a mailbox flag styled indicator for the chronograph, which says arrêt, as you can see, meaning that the chronograph functions are currently stopped. When you engage the pusher above, that flag falls down and exposes the word marche inscribed in red. which tells you that the chronograph has started working. Of course, the upper pusher is start stop and the lower pusher is reset. These can be matched with rubber bands, which actually makes that four-pronged lock design quite prominent and very attractive. But I like the integrated engineer style bracelet look as well. Stainless steel on stainless steel. And on the verso side, on the flip side, as you can see, you have the oversized seconds counter, again with a similarly red-tipped second hand, which is also blued, with a cobblestone-like design at the center. And at the bottom of the dial, you have a fan-like scale for the minutes, wrapping around a similar cobblestone pattern. And the minutes on that scale are indicated in retrograde fashion every time the 30-minute cycle is completed. The lozenge-shaped loomed hand snaps back to 0 and starts again. I think this is a beautiful design and an incredible deal on the secondary market. If you're a fan of the Grand Sport case, you'll find some great deals on this on the secondary market. The piece is available with this silvered opaline white dial, but also a more proper anthracite gray silver dial as well, which I actually prefer. But in either case, this is a stunning watch that has the same movements as the original, except for the fact that it's not skeletonized, which is, by the way, part of the attraction, right? Don't take me wrong. I think that is one of the most incredible watches that Jaeger LeCoultre ever produced. I mean, take a look at this. This is 1996, right? 3 years before Alain Gonzone introduced the datograph with its in-house movements designed from scratch, the L951-1. 3 years before that, JLC had already conceived the first in-house column wheel chronograph movements from scratch in the post-quartz era. And also several years before FP Jaune, it had the good sense to match gold case, a pink gold case with a pink gold movement, which is beautifully finished and puts in plain sight the column wheel in the lower left of that dial, which is extremely pleasing, of course, for all the horological freaks among us. Look at all those rubies, the profound stripes on the bridges, the heat blued hands and heat blued screws, which include the screws that bolt these scales directly onto those 14 carats pink gold bridge plates. At lot 942, the JLC Reverso Gansport retrograde chronograph has started the auction at no reserve. It is, however, currently being bid at 1,405 in US dollars. At lot 943, we have a late 70s Atmos clock. Atmos is a very specific kind of desk clock by JLC. It has a unique movement which basically uses variations in room temperature to power itself within its sealed capsule. There is a gas mixture that expands and contracts with variations in temperature, with the changes in the room temperature, and that helps the mechanism to wind itself without any intervention. You don't have to wind this watch to power it. And it's a very interesting concept, very impressive concept. And JLC always keeps it fresh by employing different kinds of designers to renew the aesthetic every so often. But these kinds of classics are always here to stay, at least for the vintage collectors. Presented next to its case, a beautiful cherry red leather. This is a gilt brass Atmos. Oops. Sorry about that, guys. This is Atmos reference 5861 with a white dial, Roman numerals for the hours, and a railroad track for the minutes. Heat blued stainless steel Breguet styled hands for the hour and minutes. And there's the self-winding mechanism that uses variations in the room temperature to put itself in movement. This piece likewise began the auction at no reserve. Lot 943 is currently being bid at 3,066 in US dollars. Oops, what happened here? At lot 947, we have, again, one of the classics. This is the Breguet Transatlantique in reduced size, actually. The regular reference is 3820. This is 4820, so the case is 33.5. So technically the woman's version. The Transatlantique is a little different than the Aéronaval, which, first of all, does not have a date window, just a pure three-digit, three-register chronograph look. The Aéronaval has the all-polished look, including the bracelets, whereas the Transatlantique has brushed center links as well as a brushed bezel. The Aéronaval, the no-date version, has a matte black dial, whereas the Transatlantique has a glossy dial with, as you can see in this case, rings around the two chronograph registers, including the big I minute totalizer at 3 o'clock. Again, the feminine model is a little different, but there is an aesthetic continuity between 3820 and 4820. Lot 947, which is the feminine version of the Breguet Type 20 Transatlantique, the date version, at 33.5 millimeters in stainless steel on its matching bracelets. Lot 947 was one of the pieces that started at no reserve and is currently being bid at $2,044 in US dollars. At 950, we're looking at one of the pure expressions of Daniel Roth's watchmaking. This is a late 90s model introduced in the hourglass era, which lasted from 1995 to year 2000 when Bulgari took over. One of the good things that the hourglass did was to find ways of making the Daniel Roth brand of watchmaking available to a wider group of enthusiasts, a wider audience of watch collectors. So they started producing a lot of pieces in stainless steel cases. And Le Sentier was their time and date watch that was, of course, named after the small town in the valley, pardon me, in which Daniel Roth's workshop is located to this day. Of course, nowadays he works literally from home. WFH, watchmaking godfather. But Le Sentier is right now Bulgari's watchmaking manufacturer. And it's a holdover from the time when they inherited both Daniel Roth and Gerald Janta as brands, buying them from the hourglass. This piece has a beautiful two-tone silver dial with a kind of Breguet frosted aesthetic for the hour track, Roman numerals with minimal pips of loom behind them. That ring frames the date window at 6 o'clock, and you have arrow-shaped heat-blued hands for the hour and minutes, which are loomed at the tip, as well as sweep center seconds. Daniel Roth's Le Sentier, reference 177, a pure expression of Daniel Roth's watchmaking in his signature ellipsocurvex double ellipse case with a movement finishing that might not be all that impressive by today's high horological standards, and microshot trained eyes on social media, but it's still very handsomely done, in my opinion, building on the base of Girard Perregaux caliber 3100, south winding with an approximate 42 hours of power reserve. The case is, again, in stainless steel, 35.5 by 41 millimeter. These are its dimensions. Lot 950 is Daniel Roth's Le Sentier, which is currently being bid at $4,088 in US dollars. At 951, we're looking at the real modern root beer. After all, I've never understood why the black dial steel pink gold version of the GMT Master should be called root beer, especially when the nickname comes from the dial color. But anyways, that's a minor gripe. I do actually like the modern GMT Master 2s, but I find the Yacht Master with this chocolate brown dial and in a two-tone execution more deserving of the root beer nickname, because it has that attractive sunburst dial, Yachtmaster writing in red, a distinctive gold bezel with polished pink gold center links. The Yachtmaster reference 126621 at lots 951. The piece comes with its warranty card, instruction manual, and presentation box, and is currently being bid at $10,219 in US dollars. At 953, we have the stainless steel version of the Yachtmaster. with the platinum bezel and Yachtmaster writing in red and sweep center seconds in red as well. This is the reference 168622. I believe these also have platinum dials, no? Which makes it an interesting um, interesting offering. I'm not sure actually, but this is the reduced sized version at 35 millimeters of diameter on the oyster bracelet, of course. The piece is roughly from year 2000, and it comes only with its original warranty card at lots 953. It is being bid at 3,832 in US dollars. At 964, we have one of the signature expressions of Chrono Swiss. Chrono Swiss, as you know, is a watch brand that has made the regulator dial design its métier, its specialty. They also have a pretty distinctive case style, which has that officer style look with extended lugs that are screw through, a knurled bezel, an oversized onion crown, and as you can see, a regulator dial with a spade handset. At 12 o'clock, you have Roman numerals on a subsidiary dial for the hours. At 6 o'clock, you have a railroad track for the seconds. And centrally deployed, you have the elegantly twisted minute hand, which indicates the minutes on a railroad track as well. But additionally, for this piece, you have a mono pusher chronograph, and that pusher is actually integrated onto the onion crown. This is the Chrono Swiss chronoscope in a 38 millimeter pink gold case. With a matching 18 karat pink gold buckle. Here's a look into the self-winding movements through the display case back with a sapphire crystal on the back. Here's a look at the case from profile, which has a very attractive contrasting finish with vertical brushing on the sides and mirror polishing on the top, a silver dial, The piece comes with its original warranty papers and some product literature. And it is a very interesting piece. Of course, it has just the seconds for the chronograph. Nothing more. I think it is very unique and interesting piece. Well worth taking a look at here or elsewhere on the secondary markets. This is lot 964 with the current bid that stands right above 2,000 in US dollars. At 965, you have Gérard Parago's interpretation of the Tortue case. They call it Richeville. This is a two-tone version, which has that tonneau-shaped case with a pink gold bezel and a champagne-tinted dial. This is a two-register chronograph with a 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock and continuous running seconds at 9. Both of these registers are framed with rhodium-plated rings. The centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand, as well as the hands for hour and minutes, are in stainless steel and heat blued. An interesting piece, very stylish, but not much to write home about in terms of its horological virtues. Lot 965 started with no reserve, but it is currently being bid at 894 US dollars. The piece is from around 1999. It's naked, so it doesn't come with any box or papers. 35 by 45 millimeters in terms of its dimensions, and the reference number is 2710. I agree. Monopusher single button chronographs are always very intriguing. That was about the Chrono Swiss monopusher chronograph with a regulator dial layout that we were just looking at. At 966, we are looking at an Arnold and Son piece. Arnold and Son is a kind of Phoenix brand, and I'm not saying this. Well, I'm not saying this with a slightest hint of judgment. It is a traditional English name that has been resurrected more recently and is currently owned by the Citizen Group. Of course, it is named after John Arnold, the English watchmaker from the 18th century, who is mostly known for his marine chronometers. Again, English heritage, but Swiss watchmaking with the capital of Citizen Group behind it. You're looking at the Hornet Trafalgar model, which is an interesting approach to the world time. The paintings on the dial apparently are mostly printed, but touched up by hand. There's a big date indicator at 5 o'clock, as you can see. 2 digits guichet style. And there are 2 additional hour hands for a second and third time zone. And along the periphery of the dial, you can see 24 city names corresponding to the 24 time zones. I think this is a piece that was made in very limited numbers, probably around 25 examples. And the piece has a very, 20, number 22 of 25 examples. With the 4 crowns and a 47 millimeter case size in pink gold. This is a rather imposing watch and an unusual look, to be sure. But otherwise, the case design, without counting the crowns, appeals to me a lot, with a stepped bezel and stepped lugs that are screwed through in that officer style. And I like the big dates, actually, that is bolted on to the center of the dial. Very interesting piece by Arnold and Son from around 2010. Their approach to world time / triple time zone watch, with a dial that depicts a miniature painting, the Battle of Trafalgar. This is the Hornet Trafalgar, reference 1116 at lot 966. Having started with no reserve, the watch is currently being bid at $5,110 in US dollars. Please hit the like button if you can. I'm going to take a short break now. I'll see if I come back from it because I feel like no one except JB is listening or interacting. I'm sorry to be a little cranky, but I'm putting in quite a bit of work, and to see it without recognition kindly breaks my heart a little bit. So we'll see if I come back from this short break. I think we finished the coverage of most of the Sotheby's auction. I can bring up the Antiquorum auction that is coming up at the end of the month. If we are going to continue tonight's broadcast, otherwise, I'll come back tomorrow. A short break. All right, I'm back, and maybe we'll preview this article that I actually want to talk with the professor. Hopefully, I can convince him to come back and run a show with me. As you guys know, the subdial watch index has come up in our discussions before on this channel. It is an index of the most commonly traded watches that is aggregated by the algorithm, of course. Who else? And not much longer than 2 weeks ago, Bloomberg reported a very interesting article around how the subdial index has hit the lowest of low. Rolex and Patek prices fall as subdial index nears 2-year low. Subdial watch index has lost about 20% in past 12 months. And remember, the 20% is for the 50 most traded, for the 50 hottest pieces in the market. And among those hottest pieces, the most hyped examples, such as the Patek Philippe Nautilus, Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and the Rolex Daytona, are the worst performers. Prices for luxury Swiss watches are near the lowest in almost 2 years on the secondary market, as Rolex, Patek Philippe, and Audemars Piguet models continue falling from the record highs reached in early 2022. As you know, while all the other watch channels were not only hyping up the watch market, but actually colluding with a lot of gray market dealers in inflating the prices. I was here first with the professor, insisting that we are heading towards a crash already in late February, early days of March. And now we are here for almost 2 years. The so-called correction became very consistent. And in fact, prices have fallen at least $20,000, often much more. And if you think it's just the hype models, you're certainly not tracking the prices on perhaps less covetable, but still horologically and inherently and historically valuable pieces. They have also fallen significantly. Of course, the subdial index, I think, is actually owned, at least in part, by Bloomberg. So that's something to at least underline and make a note of, which tracks the 50 most traded pre-owned luxury watches by value, is well below price levels hit in June 2021. So in fact, they're identifying a consistent downturn that extends all the way back to mid 2021 and not only early 2022. Right, as you see, that was June 21, and now the index has hit, in fact, a level lower than that moment reached in June 2021, which paled in comparison to February and March in 2022. And soon enough, we will finally be comparing the prices to pre-pandemic levels. I think that's not late in coming. Demand for pricey timepieces from the top Swiss brands has cooled amid slowing economies, higher interest rates, and the crash in cryptocurrencies, according to data compiled by London-based Subdial, a dealer in pre-owned watches. Of course, there's that too, which, by the way, is in this case something, something to be taken in positively, I think, right? Because a lot of the dealers who appear on these social media channels are always quick to, um, allay the fears of a market crash. They deny in every way they can how significantly prices have fallen, um, if not outright lie about it. At least Subdial, which also runs the index, can keep itself in check and speculate perhaps much less in having a stock of pre-owned watches themselves, which they would be otherwise, of course, interested in hyping up. Prices peaked in February of last year following an unprecedented surge during the pandemic. The Audemars Piguet Royal Jumbo Ultra Thin, with a current average price of 71,692, is the worst performing model over the past 12 months, down more than 35%, the data shows. The Patek Philippe Nautilus travel time is 28% lower in a year, while the Platinum Rolex Daytona 116506 with the ice blue dial and maroon subdials and the ceramic bezel has slumped about 25% in the used markets. Again, these are all the hottest, most covetable of all hype pieces, right? We're talking about the Royal Oak Jumbo, we're talking about the Nautilus with the popular travel time function, and we're talking about the top of the line, the crown jewel of the Daytona family in the previous generation, before it was replaced with the 126,506, which has not hit the market yet. The performance of the overall index, which is down 19% in a year and about 1% during the previous 30 days, shows that prices for the most in-demand used luxury watches are still falling, albeit at a slower pace than in August and September last year. So the fall remains consistent, but has seemingly slowed down in pace. With no end in sight, by the way. This is not what they're saying at all. They're just saying that the free fall seems to have been somewhat mitigated, but it is still falling. The best performing models on the Bloomberg Subdial Watch Index over the past 12 months are the Rolex Lady Datejust in steel and gold, the two-tone ladies' datejusts are always good for their money, it seems, which gained 2.6 to an average price of 3,892. And the gold Rolex day date, we were just talking about it, the single quick sets, reference 18 or 38 from the 1970s and 80s, up 1.4 to 17,756. These are the three models that they were mentioning, which had some of the most significant price drops on the secondary markets. The Patek Philippe Nautilus 5990, which is of course the flyback chronograph and travel time combined. The 15202, which is the now discontinued version of AP's most aspirational Royal Oak Jumbo, at least for me still. I know people would rather get ceramic perpetual calendars at this point. And then the Rolex Daytona in platinum with that special ice blue dial and maroon accents, including the chronograph registers and the ceramic bezel. And this is how that subdial 50 index overall has fallen over the last year, which is minus 19.2. Most severe fall has been the AP Royal Oak Jumbo, extra thin, 15202, which has fallen more than 31.5% over the last year in terms of its value on the secondary markets. Good morning, man. I'm just about to sign off, but it's nice to see you. Fries. All right. I'll be back tomorrow night with the coverage of the upcoming anti-quorum auction, which is going to take place in Monaco on July 25th. Please hit the like button on the way out. Is well appreciated. If you want to support the channel, you know how. The links are available in the video description. They are now rolling in the crawling ticker, and I am posting them now in the chat. Of course, you can always use super chats, super thanks, and sign up for a channel membership, which hooks you up with exclusive content. If you want that kind of exclusive content on a daily basis, Patreon is your best bet, because it is there where I post for the first time my daily market digest, where I not only pinpoint at least 3 watch deals online, but I curate them according to very specific categories: complications, brands, models, genres, historical eras, and go into painstaking detail in presenting them in that exclusive recording. So it always ends up being an educational and informative endeavor. Feel free to check it out. If you have gotten one of those gifted memberships that Ali Reza generously gave, You can already see examples of that work from the archives on YouTube as member exclusive videos. These kinds of videos will start to be rolled out by next week to the general public as well, even though some of them will continue remaining exclusive to the YouTube membership and, of course, be delivered to the Patreon audience on a daily basis. The high level of membership on YouTube also gives you the same kind of daily access, and both Patreon and YouTube memberships are, of course, the best way of supporting this channel and remaining in constant and close contact with me. Otherwise, thank you for your support and presence. If you hit the like button, that's already plenty. If you are just tuning in, if you have just chanced upon this broadcast, I'm here on a daily basis with watch content on live streams and more. So subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I go live and every time I post new content. And feel free to share all kinds of content you find on the channel. There's already quite an archive, and that will help us, of course, expand this community that we're building around the passion for and profound knowledge of wristwatches. Thank you again, JB, for your support, for your generous super chats, and for everyone else for your messages in the chat. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow with my coverage of the Antiquorum auction coming up in Monaco at the end of the month. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Take care. I'll see you in the next